Good morning, Jonathan.
Hey,
Oh,
can you hear me? I'm sorry. I had a bunch of calls come in and I can't
oh,
take a call if I'm on WhatsApp.
okay. All right. Well, we're all set. We're live now. We're a minute early, but okay.
Good.
Maybe
Let me have my
we'll have a
laptop
couple early
ready.
birds. Who knows? But it's good to
Well, let's
see you.
hope
Are
we
you
can
all
push
set with
through.
your technology?
Yeah, I think the technology seems to be working really well from my end. You never know with these how people are going to be seeing it when they first log in.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it will work out. So let's get us both on the screen here. You like that? Good.
Yeah, you're coming in great. Am I coming in
Great.
pretty clearly?
Yes. All right, everybody, welcome. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. And also thank you to whoever is watching this recording. We appreciate you coming here as well. So let's just start out and talk about who this event is for. This event is for mid to senior level professionals and executives with experience in multiple industries or functions that are looking for a new position. And we chose this topic because a lot of times as executive recruiters, we have people get in touch with us and ask us about how to begin a job search. And one of the things that we hear a lot of times is that people aren't exactly sure what direction to go in. And so for that reason, we thought this might be a good topic, and hopefully you'll agree. Now, to start by introducing ourselves, I'll let Jonathan go first with that, and then I'll jump back in. Jonathan, who are you?
Yeah, good segue for this. So I spent 10 years in an oil company, Shell, and really liked it and left after that to do search and have had a lot of fun doing search. I would say consistently from the beginning, this topic, broad versus narrow, comes up because I get a lot of people sending me resumes, sometimes unsolicited, asking for advice. Gee, what do I do? I'm in the middle of a job search. And all of my revenue comes from doing searches for clients. So after a while, finding a way to help the candidates became a huge topic, and it's something Jason and I have talked about a lot. So hopefully today in this broadcast, we can give people some quick heads up ideas for how to begin their job search and how narrow or broad to make it.
Are you hearing me now? Do you hear
Now you're
me?
coming in loud and clear now, but we
Okay, good.
could try and do some lip reading for a couple of
All right,
minutes.
all right, good. So what I was saying was Jonathan runs his own search company. He's CEO of Magellan International. He's written books on the topic of careers and job searching, among other things. I own my own job search company as well, or excuse me, recruiting company as well, and work with executives, particularly in the consulting area, with companies like Bain, BCG, Accenture, and others. And more importantly, for this session, both of us have counseled hundreds, if not thousands, of executives as they go through career transitions. So, why is this an important topic? Do you want to jump on that one,
Yeah, I
Jonathan?
think it's certainly important for me because, again, we get a number of people that we know professionally calling and asking for advice. I get a number of resumes every day of people looking for work. And I try and find ways to help them, but those activities are peripheral to my normal day, which is doing retained search for large companies, consulting firms, and operating companies where I'm looking for specific people. But for all of those who get stuck, what do I do now? How do I manage this? I've discovered the job market's pretty efficient at moving people into companies that need problem solved. But the career market, which is what does an individual do with the sum of all their jobs, that's a little less clear. And so the book I wrote actually addresses that. How do you take all the jobs you've had and convert that into great career choices, which tend to last a lot longer?
Yeah.
And so for us, the topic of how do you search for a job, or more importantly, from my perspective, how do you frame a job within the context of your longer term career huge topic. It's partly what my book was about. And again, it's one of the things that Jason and I talk about a lot when we say, how can we sort of help the market of the people that we hear from frequently, many of whom aren't looking for a job?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that I face too, is how do you help people when they're looking for a job when they're not able to be clear about what it is that they're looking for. So let's talk for a minute about the advantages of a narrow versus a broad job search. And we had some conversation before, and I think we reached pretty much agreement on this topic. Basically, what happens with people that have expertise in a variety of areas, different industries, different functions, and so forth, see themselves as being able to operate in different contexts. And I think it's a fair assumption. I think it's that they're probably right when they say that they can do that. The issue comes up when they're having conversations and presenting themselves to the market and taking the actions, especially networking, that they need to take in order to find a new position. That taking a broad approach has some issues. Now, a narrow approach does as well. When you go narrow, when you're looking in a specific industry or function, then you may miss out on certain opportunities. At least that's the fear. I believe differently, but that is what people are concerned about. But what really happens, in my experience, is that when people go too broadly in their job search, they have difficulty focusing and they have difficulty explaining who they are and what they want. People get confused, and even if they want to help, they can't because they don't know how to, based on what's being presented to them. So that's my start, Jonathan. What do you think?
I think from candidates I talk to incidentally, so someone calls, they want sort of a quick answer, I will say, well, think of someone you know that's doing a job you'd love to have, and think of the people you'd love to work with. Reach out to them, talk about issues you have in common where they would be inclined to say to you, hey, could you come and help us address that issue? So it's not necessarily narrow or broad, but it is focused on those people that you respect, those issues that you're interested in, and having conversations with people that sort of make you an obvious choice to help address those issues with them. So to some degree, when you begin, it tends to be narrow just incidentally. If you want to stand back and work it out, that might be another question that we can talk about in a minute. But if it's going to be broader, I tend to approach the problem a little differently.
Yeah, I think I agree with, especially in that when people come to me with one of the things that I tell people, I should say, is that if you are taking a narrow approach, you can always shift your focus. So you can go down one path for, a week or a month, and you can area. So one of the things that you mentioned was that there are a number of metrics or things to focus on when you're managing your job search, and I'll just throw them up at the bottom of the screen. These were the things we were talking about specifically.
I think it's critical when we talk to people and they're beginning the search to sort of define an ideal outcome. And being an engineer, I said, what are the fastest metrics? So if you look at jobs on LinkedIn, the things you're seeing: location, industry, function, level, compensation, and culture. You don't find culture as a variable on LinkedIn, but you do find the other five. And so as you think about what you'd like to do ideally, and you talk about to the other people that are impacted by your career, you should define an ideal outcome. This is actually a very broad approach to taking a look. What locations and industries, you can just define that yourself. And then when it comes to making a selection, you say, do I really like these people? Career criteria are slightly different, but you can go broad in those functional areas, and then you can narrow it based on what location do you want? What industries are you interested in? What functions are you passionate about doing? What level's appropriate for you? What compensation do you need for your family? And then the culture question, which is great, is do I really want to work with these people at this company? So I would start broadly, define those metrics, and then narrow the search within your own control based on your own interests.
Yeah, no, it makes a ton of sense. All right, so we've explained why we think this is important, and we've given some advice, but now let's talk about how to actually do it, which I think is really the heart of our program. So how do you execute your search? And let's see, we'll get a slide up here. I think this will probably be helpful in explaining our thinking. And just let's see if I can move that off the first slide. There we go. So step one is to not really do anything, right? Is to take a step back, think about what it is that you want to do, have conversations with people that are not critical to your search, right? So when you're practicing, a lot of times I have people call me before they're really searching, and it's difficult for me to provide them with introductions, which is probably where I can add the most value. It was introducing to a client, introducing to somebody for them to network with, but it's really difficult to be able to do that if they haven't reflected and figured out what the direction is that they want to go in. So,
yeah, I mean, I agree completely. And again, without going too long on each thing that comes up, that first step, planning what you want to do, thinking about it. Sometimes I'll just tell people to tell me the story of every job they've ever had, why they took it, what they got out of it, and why they left. Sort of what I call a career narrative, just to kind of give themselves a chance to reflect on their backgrounds.
Yeah, for sure. So you've got that. Now you've figured out what it is that you want to do. What's next?
Yeah, get your resources lined up. Who are you going to talk to? What issues are you going to talk about? What are your selection criteria? Are you going to put it in a spreadsheet? I mean, little nits and lice, but what you want to do is get something prepared that you can keep track of what you're doing, whether it's a spreadsheet or a Word doc, because the process gets complicated pretty quick.
Yeah, and I think also it probably goes without saying, your LinkedIn profile and your resume are very important. They need to align. They're not the same thing. This could be a topic of an entire conversation, but just just do a real high level. Your LinkedIn profile is your marketing document. Your CV is your history, and they both should point in the same direction. And they both should be aspirational, meaning that they are speaking to what it is that you want to do as much as what it is that you have done. So those are two really important resources as well. Let's see if we can get our next step is to engage your network. I'll take that one. So engaging your network, there are a number of ways to do this. First of all, don't be afraid. You've just got to be able to reach out to people. Take the easy ones first, the people that you don't think are, that if they say no, or if you don't, if you blow up the conversation, it doesn't matter. That's important. The other thing is it's important to get a message or a topic that you can speak about with the people that you are, that you're networking with. So it is important not to call up and say, do you have a position for me? Because it's binary, and generally the answer is going to be no. And so the conversations get very short and becomes very difficult to network to the next person. And so each step in your networking journey ought to be to get to the next step. So network to get to the next person. I'm going to move on from that, Jonathan, because I do want to try to stick within our 15 minutes. I know it's tight, but I'll leave that this one for you. Research.
So you want to research where you're likely to find the optimal outcome for your job search. Use the metrics, define an ideal outcome, stand back and look through your network. Who do you know that would be an advocate for you? Someone that if you reach out to them is probably going to call you back within 24 hours. The other thing that's good to research is to try and find 3 people in your network that would be great advisors. People that you could share opportunities with that would honestly tell you whether they think they're good or bad fits for what you're looking for. But that research, that sort of ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Plan where you're going before you jump in.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree. Okay. Well, I guess I already mentioned this in step 3, but since it's here, the object of every call is to get to the next call. So your networking process, your job search process is a sales process. It's a funnel. You need to reach out to a certain number of people to get a certain number of opportunities, to get a certain number of offers, and eventually a position. The number of people that any given person might know might not be all that high. So one of the things to do is to expand your network. Look for any introductions, even if they don't look like they will turn into anything, because you never know. You never know what happens. And networking is key. It's key in our business, and it's key in the job search as well. Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, you got to hop on this. So you should every day call 3 or 4 people out of your network. You don't need to make this a tiresome, exhausting process. And I would tell you, job search is far more exhausting than anybody realizes. Yeah. And again, you want to have some people that you can talk to that will be supportive as you go through this. But you should spend some time every day calling people, talking to them, expanding your network, looking for people that will be advocates, looking for people that can be advisors. But most importantly, you should sit back and recognize that the outcome of a job search, while ostensibly it's to find a job, if you're fairly senior, the real outcome is to manage your career. What do you want to do for the next 5 to 7 years? And maybe as another topic for us to do a LinkedIn Live on is the relationship between jobs and careers. But if you spend a little time each day pushing the process, very quickly, you'll get a sense for which opportunities are short-term to solve a company's problem and which opportunities might be longer-term and therefore more beneficial to your career.
Yeah, agreed. And I think it's also important to not spend too much time. So it's better to be consistent and to stop at a certain time. And I was looking up this, like, maybe you know this, Jonathan, I don't know. There's a story, I think it's the 2 explorers to the South Pole, Scott and Amundsen, and one of them was taking a certain number. They were looking for 20 miles each day, but at 20 miles they would stop. And if they couldn't get 20 miles, they would stop. And the other one was going as far as they possibly could in any given day and then would stop. And the one that had the, sort of the defined limits was the one that won that race. I don't remember the specifics. I was looking it up. I couldn't find it, but I thought it was a really good example, and I would apply it in this case as well. So we almost made our 15-minute mark, but we did promise to leave ourselves open to questions. Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask?
I see one from Jacob saying, what would you say is the most common mistake people make when starting a job search? You want to take that one first, Jason?
Most common mistake. Let's see. Well, I mean, I think we're talking about it, really. I think it's jumping the gun. I think it's moving too quickly and not being prepared.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think the most common mistake people make is in reaction to losing a job or not having one, they think they immediately need to find another job. If you're early in your career, that's less problematic. Later in your career, you need to be careful. You need to recognize that jobs solve other people's problems. And again, your career is a longer term problem that you need to solve for yourself. I generally tell people, please don't send your resume out against a bunch of LinkedIn job postings. Define an ideal outcome. Look for people you trust to be advisors. Think about where you want to go. Write your career narrative. How did you get where you are? Own where you are, plan the outcomes, and then begin selectively engaging in the job market on LinkedIn or Indeed or wherever you're looking. Because once you understand what you want to do longer term, you're much more likely to avoid false positives and false negatives in the job market.
Yeah. I see another question here, Jonathan, from Marina. I'll let you take that one. Do either of you work one-on-one with job seekers or just companies to recruit?
Yeah, I mean, I work one-on-one with job seekers. I also work with companies to help them outplace executives. It's not a big part of my business, but since the book has come out, I've been asked to do it, and I do love helping people, to be honest. So yes, I do work with people one-on-one. My preference is to work with their companies as a coach so that we can formally get this done right.
What's the name of the book again, Jonathan? I'll throw it up on a banner.
Living Your Best Career.
Living Your Best Career. Hopefully I'll spell this right. I'm doing it quickly. And that is, let's see, show up. There we go. That's the book. That's Jonathan's book.
Yeah, it's on Amazon.
Okay. I think there might have been another question. Is it better to submit 1-page resume or 3-page CV at senior manager level? Personally, I'd say 2. Senior manager level, you probably have enough experience that 1 page, you're not going to be able to fit it on without making the text very small. And that's not a good plan. At 3, you're probably running on too long. Two is really ideal at senior manager level. There's enough information there. One of the things to do is to think about bullet points that outline quantitative measures.
Yeah.
So anything that you can do that explains the impact that you've had in numbers is helpful on a resume.
Yeah, I would add to that on the quantitative bullets in your resume, it's about clients, people, and process. They want to understand that as a manager, you're interacting with clients and what the revenue impact is. They want to know how you're managing people, how many, and what's your role with them, and the process by which you manage a project. Those are the sorts of things people look for. So whether it's 1 page or 3, when someone looks at a manager, they're going to want to know people, process, and client impact.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Good. I think that we don't have any more questions on board. Give you a count of 5 if anyone wants to throw something up real quick. I can't see. Marley, I don't know what that is. I can't actually comment through this this interface.
Maybe next time we could do like where you put up living your best career, Jason. I'm just thinking how we improve our own process. Maybe we could put the questions up on that banner next time.
Yes. Yeah, we can do that. Let's see. Yeah.
Jason,
we'll work out some of the kinks, but let's talk about that after and let people go. So thanks everybody for coming. We appreciate you being here this is our maiden voyage on this platform. So I'm hoping you couldn't tell.
Well, feel free to email other questions you might have if we missed some, or if you want to repost to this broadcast to share with others, or if you have ideas for things you would like us to talk about to help empower people get control of their careers, we're happy to do that. Oh, that's a nice slide.
There we are. Yeah. That's our slide with our information. We'll leave that up for a second.
That looks good.
Track us down. Yeah.
All right.
Yes. All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Very good. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming. Take care. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye-bye.